they rely on me a lot. And I worry about them. Is mom being selfish? Is she putting her job first? But on the flip side of that argument, I want them to go after big things too. Like, I want them to be inspired to pursue their dreams, to take some risks, to make those types of choices so that the end goal is like, you always want to look back and kind of minimize regrets. And I really feel like this is an opportunity. If I'm not there, if I'm not guiding it, that I will regret it.
I'm Tiffany Souter, entrepreneur, wife, mom to 4 girls, and a woman figuring it out just like you. If you're tired of living a life of have to and finally ready to build a life of want to, then you're in the right place. Come on, let's go build your life of and. We have a very special episode today for you. A couple of weeks ago, we sent an email out to our newsletter list, and I just told Sam we were working on content for the coming quarter. And I was like, I think it would just be super cool if someone had a problem and we just solved it live. Let's do that. Let's show the Life of And toolbox in the wild, and let's see if anybody responds. And so amazing. I'm always surprised when people reply. And we had a bunch of responses to it. And one stood out to me that I was like, we have got to jump on the microphone and we have to share how Kelly's going to be solving this. So Kelly Hiller, the Chief Marketing Officer of Purdue University, reached out. She's got a gigantic job, so many things going on, with the most special opportunity for her to sort of step in and do something very unique with her career. I will let her explain that. But I want to share a quote from her response to us, because I think while her situation is likely one that no one on planet Earth will ever get a chance to see this exact situation, it is wildly cool. I think these words that she wrote in is a universal conflict for those of us who are working women who have this vibrant heart and this compelling nature to also be so present for the people that we love and that trust us with their childhoods, our kids and our husbands. And so these are the words that she said. She said, I'm caught between my excitement for the adventure and guilt about prioritizing my personal ambitions over my family responsibilities. I'd like coaching, a conversation on how to work through this internal conflict between pursuing meaningful opportunities and maintaining my commitment to my family. This balancing act, this intersection of these two things is where all the conflict comes. Because at first we're like, oh my word, I can only have one. So this is going to be truly about solving for your ands, Kelly. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being so brave. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so let's start. Why don't you orient listeners to what the opportunity is? Mm-hmm. And then just a little lay of the land on your kids' ages, how long you've been married, that kind of thing.
Sure. So coming up in November, we are going to have the opportunity to go on an expedition. Purdue University is partnering with ALI on what we believe is Amelia Earhart's plane. And our interest in this, as she's a fellow Boilermaker, is to hopefully identify the plane. And then a second expedition will happen in early 2026 with the intent to bring the plane back to Purdue University for all to see. So that is the long-term goal. And this has all come about. We've been talking about it since February, verifying whether or not we feel like the evidence is solid. And this is one where we do. So we'll know for sure when the crew gets there, whether or not it's her plane. But this is a huge moment for Purdue University. And I didn't think we realized the magnitude of the moment when we made the announcement about the expedition and the evidence of the plane. It was the largest earned media day in Purdue University's history. And so that was a real wake-up call of this is going to take a lot. All eyes are going to be on us. And we have this saying in our department is we play varsity. So we are going to bring our best to this situation, and it's going to be a big moment for the Purdue brand. So what does that entail? And we've been shaping that up. And obviously in my role, I take that charge professionally and personally to be that protector, positioner, promoter, all the things of the Purdue University brand. And initially, at one point during the conversation, it was maybe I was going to be on the boat, which was a whole different level of inside excitement and terror that has since evolved a couple of times. And now it looks like I'm going to be based out of Honolulu. Obviously now, like, no safety concerns, all those types of things are not now a non-issue, but it's still a huge time commitment. And we are shaping up the schedule. It looks like myself and a couple others will be heading out likely November 3rd, around there. And then depending on the identification, we could be gone as long as November 16th or so through the week of Thanksgiving, just depending on if it is the plane or it's not the plane, what next steps would be. And so that is the longest I've ever been gone for a work trip. Whenever I go, the longest I have been gone to this point is a week. I still feel guilt over that. And usually I'm in a pretty good location, which even makes it worse when you're like, yeah, you're working and you're in Honolulu. That's a really rough day that you're having there. But the objective of that from a business perspective is that in Honolulu, we will be a day behind the crew, but we will be up at the same time. So we can be in conversation. We're going to have a cinematographer on the crew that I'll need to be coaching of what assets we need, what different things. And we are partnering with NBC on this to be as an exclusive arrangement. And so making sure we're getting what they need, getting the clips they need, and then obviously transferring assets back and forth. So I'll have busy days, but it's time away. And it's that internal struggle of, am I being selfish? But I feel like I am responsible for how Purdue is portrayed in this moment, but then also making sure the systems are all in place so that when I'm gone, minimizing as much as I can the inconvenience and those types of things that go along with it. So I think, that was one of the reasons I reached out is I've always struggled with work travel. And, as a mom, you're kind of the heartbeat of the house of everything, all the little things that come up, particularly with girls. And that's who is in our house right now. So we have 4 children total, ranging in ages from my youngest is 13, my oldest is 24. My 24-year-old, very independent and is married now and living his life. So he's not as much of a concern. My second son is a junior at Purdue studying civil engineering. And then my girls, I have a senior who's 17 and a 6th grader who's 13. And, they rely on me a lot and want to make sure that I worry about them. Is mom being selfish? Is she putting her job first? But on the flip side of that argument, I want them to go after big things too. Like, I want them to be inspired to pursue their dreams, to take some risks, to make those types of choices so that, like me, in your career, in your personal life, the end goal is like you always want to look back and kind of minimize regrets. And I really feel like this is an opportunity. If I'm not there, if I'm not guiding it, that I will regret it. So keeping all of those things in balance. And like you said, I am married. We've been married over 20 years. So I have a lot of history together, but it never is easy, when you take kind of yourself out of the mix. And this is also a challenge because the time difference. I'm not going to be readily available, which I think a lot of times now you can solve or give advice or, hey, do this over text. And that just won't sync up as cleanly as maybe it has during past travel experiences.
What's the time difference? It's like 8 hours or something wild.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's right around 8.
And you will be, I'm so bad at time zones, you'll be behind.
Yes.
You'll be
I will
behind.
be behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start with I made kind of a sheet for myself of how are you feeling about, and we're going to kind of take each one individually. So you mentioned one piece is leaving my husband, with all the things to do. So just give me a few sentences on hey, here's how I'm feeling about this. If you were just scratching in a journal, here's how I'm feeling about this.
Well, right now I'm avoiding the conversation.
Okay.
I went to him initially when I knew this was likely going to happen and was thinking, hey, this is on the horizon. Tell me how you feel about it. I feel like we've always had the type of relationship we have. He never tells me no. So that isn't a concern, but he's not excited about it either because he knows it's all going to be on him. It's going to be on him to make all the calls when the kids need this or want that or want to go someplace or have somebody over, all of those things. And in the midst of that, in his defense, he is navigating an aging parent situation right now that requires a lot of his time, a lot of his attention. I would say most of all, his emotional energy and making sure his mom is cared for. And when things come up, that he's there to help and assist, which is obviously very, very important to him as well and our family overall. But where I feel like when I say I'm avoiding the conversation is I haven't committed to saying, which I technically don't know yet, but I have a pretty close of like, here's when I'm leaving. Here's when I could be coming back. Here's when I might be coming back, and just kind of mapping it out. Because it's not that I feel like he's going to be mad. I just know it's this heaviness that I'm going to put on him that I do feel guilty about, knowing everything that he is charged with taking care of right now.
Do you know, maybe we'll just take these. What is the easiest for him that you will put on him, and what is the hardest? Like, of the things, it's like, hey, this is the offboarding of Kelly's responsibilities to husband. One of the pieces is that he doesn't have the capacity. You are two people doing two jobs right now, and one of you does not have the capacity to do all of the other ones. Would there be an opportunity to almost like make an inventory of these are the things that Kelly is moving over to husband, and which of those can be outsourced, paused, somebody else in the house can take on, so that it isn't this like obtusely shaped thing, that it's just like, hey, best of luck. I'll be praying for you. Is there an opportunity to do that?
I think so, yes. I mean, we are very fortunate and we have a very strong family network around us. My parents live in the same town, are very involved in our kids' lives. His dad and stepmom are around. So we have, when I think about like logistical challenges, I feel like those are all extremely easy solves. So I think we can take that. I think what is more on him is, first of all, I don't know what it's like in your house, but the morning routine and getting the hair done. Hair is a thing. And so that is particularly with my younger daughter. So that's a space where I'm going to need I think there's a healthy level of encouraging self-sufficiency here, maybe a little bit more that should occur. But my older daughter is also just going to have to step up in that space and help her sister out. And then I think for me, for the girls particularly, it's that I fulfill a big like emotional support angle of listening to the vent, guiding. I would say I am stronger in that space than he is. He had a brother, so experiencing girls is very different for him sometimes, particularly in the teenage years. So I think that's where I'm going to have to lean on, particularly like my mom and my sister to do like express that, which I've never done before, of like, hey, I need you to check in every couple of days and see how things are going, how their days have been, which obviously he will do. But there's just subject matters that I think they feel more comfortable coming to me or to one of them than they necessarily might him.
So let's take that actually maybe specifically, because let's start with the girls. So I think, can we just like make an inventory? One is hair, right? I mean, literally big and little things. Another is emotional support. What are the girls' names?
Grace and Lucy.
Okay, emotional support for Grace and emotional support for Lucy. I don't know if your girls are like mine, but it looks very different for them. My two, like my teenagers, it's like what one needs is very different. So emotional support for Grace and emotional support for Lucy. What else with girls, with the kids?
I think it's probably really looking ahead proactively of like what events are coming up that we need to be mindful of. Is there a dance during this time? What does that look like? Do we anticipate any dress-up days at school that we're going to maybe need some supplies for? I will miss the beginning of my daughter's basketball season. Like, I think it's maybe 4 or 5 games. And she's a senior, so that's a big deal. And I keep books, so she's very used to me being on the sidelines and a part of that experience. And that also is something, Brad will need to help out with, is taking that responsibility for the team while I'm gone, but making sure, do you have everything you need for the start of the season? Are we good to go there? So I think it's definitely zeroing in on activities and just what things do we anticipate coming up in the calendar during this time period.
Is there additional financial, like, are you getting more money for doing this, Kelly, or is this just like part of your job?
It's just part of my job.
Part of your job. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just, my question was around, are there financial resources that you guys could say, hey, as a family, we're going to allocate some of what you're getting to go do this towards like other help? So hair, you said for hair, one option is that her older sister does it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or that she learns how to do it on her own, right?
Yeah.
That would be another option. What other option could we have?
I guess one other option could be, so my niece is a cosmetologist and works as a hairdresser, is kind of taking Lucy over to their house one day and being like, hey, can you give her a tutorial on how to do some things by herself? What are some like 3 or 4 easy hairstyles that she could manage herself and kind of walk her through that? I think she would probably have the more patience and expertise in that area than I do. Because when I'm doing it, like I'm in a hurry. We need to get this done. What are you wanting today? And get you out of the house.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would be thinking about, because I leave too, is you don't want it to be this cliff where everything feels different when you leave. That like
that's a really good point.
Everything is as it was until the day mom left, and then 100% of things are changing on that day.
Yeah.
So staging this, because you have 5, maybe 6 weeks until you leave, to start looking at, hey, we're going to incorporate some of these changes. Some of these are things, like you said with your daughter's hair, that need to happen anyway. And separating that for your girls of like, these are not all mom is leaving and so everybody's lives have to change. Some of this is me saying, hey, this is something I want you to learn how to do so that your 15-year-old self will only know how to do it if your 13-year-old self starts to practice it, kind of thing. Or
no, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
I would like literally have a list like this and say, girls, these are the things I'm looking ahead that are going to change when mom goes on this trip. Have you told them yet? I know that was.
So my older daughter overheard a conversation.
Okay.
So she is aware that I likely could be leaving. My youngest has no idea. And so she is the one that will emotionally struggle the most. And she's a COVID kid. So, when she started school, she was at home and still is she likes that attention. She is very dependent on me. And so she's the one I think will emotionally struggle the most when I'm gone. I expect tears on occasion for sure. But again, I think the flip side of this too is learning to cope, learning to kind of push yourself and see what you're capable of, what you can get through. Obviously, like I want to put support in there for her, but I do see this as a little bit of a growth opportunity.
Who else is she really connected to?
My mom, her Nana, they are tight. They are very, very tight. And so she goes there every day after school until I wrap up meetings or unless she has a practice sometimes, because my parents live right at the end of the street where the high school is at. So they're never allowed to move. We've talked about that. Until my kids graduate because it's so convenient. So my mom, she will still see her every day, and that's huge. My parents aren't traveling. That actually would have been a factor in my decision if my parents had been traveling during this time, which thank goodness they're not, because Lucy she will need her Nana. There's no doubt about it.
So I think on the emotional support side, again, so that not everything just like clips, is like maybe on, I don't know, Tuesdays and Thursdays, your mom brings Lucy, as your younger one, brings her home and makes dinner, cleans up the kitchen for your husband, like, just sort of like does the thing.
That's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
And it brings her, because my mom is the same way. It feels like you when it's your mom, because the home you created is so close to the one you grew up in. And so there's like this incredibly amazing thing that happens when your kids are close to the maternal grandma. So how do you bring her in? And maybe even a week or 2 before you leave, there's one day where she comes and does that while you're home, so that she kind of sees the rhythm of what it looks like, where you put things, where the bag gets hung. Like, so there's not all these visual cues that mom is gone.
No, I think that would be really helpful. And I think it'd also be helpful for my husband, because that's a heavy lift. Dinner every night with no break, particularly, on the days that he doesn't travel necessarily far, like he's within driving distance, but there are days where like he has to go to locations in Illinois. So he just comes in a little bit later, and sometimes he needs to stop and take care of some things for his mom. So kind of thinking through, what days do you anticipate your longer days to be, and trying to line it up with that. With her coming in and, bringing Lucy home and kind of getting some things prepped would be extremely helpful.
Yeah. So if you think about, there's 5 nights in a weekday, which is really there's 5 nights in the work week. I feel like Friday night is the easiest of the 5.
For sure.
So then you're down to 4. So this is how I would think about it if I was prepping JR. I'd say, okay, 2 of them my mom is going to come take care of. 1 of them you're going to get takeout. And 1 of them I have dinner in the freezer for you. So there's only 3 or 4 meals you need to kind of get prepped before you leave, because the whole week your brain will die. Or the whole, in 21 days your brain will die. You don't have time to do that. So maybe you go get some like frozen things at GFS and you tell your mom, hey, you're going to come Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday before you leave, I want you to put this in the fridge so that it's thawed. And then on Wednesday night, your husband just has to put that in the oven. And on Monday nights, he always gets carry out from Chipotle or wherever it is,
Sure. No, that would be very helpful. I hadn't even thought about frozen meals. That would be huge.
So then it's like he doesn't have to solve for what's happening. It's on the fridge. Your mom is essentially prepping the next day's food. Like, hey, can you prep that for him? Cutting some lettuce if it's enchiladas or whatever the things. Moms can do that super fast. Grandmas can do that very fast.
They can, yes.
So then all he has to do is administer it. There's not decisions for him to make in it. And at least for my husband, that would make that automatic. So it's like, how do I use my people? How do I use my resources? And how do I make this so that it's clear and nobody has decisions that need to be made?
Yeah, I think that would be a big one for him, is that decision fatigue of just being the constant go-to that needs to make the call, whether it's what we're having for dinner or can Grace's boyfriend come over, like all those things when you work, I'm sure you feel like when you work all day, there's just this limit you reach of where like, I don't care how large or small it is. I do not want to make one more decision today.
Yeah. So maybe you guys decide what categories of those questions need to go to your husband and what categories of those goes to Nana.
I think that would be helpful. And communicating that to both of them.
The whole family needs to sit down.
So everybody's on the same page. Yeah. I think that would be extremely helpful.
Making it very explicit and say like, okay, whether or not your boyfriend can come over is a grandma question, but here's our family ground rules with that. Is the adult going to be home, whatever the things are, so that she's not put in a situation, you know what I mean? Or it's like can't be more than 3 hours or after 10 p.m., whatever the things are. Everybody knows the rules, and this is how this is going to work and who it's going to go to, because it's so much. There's no way. Even if it was the mom who was staying home, not the dad, it's too much to do it all on your own for this long.
Yeah.
So I would be, because some of the things we wrote down, like scheduling, special needs that come up, emergency school, like, yeah, today's jog-a-thon, kill me off, those kinds of things. You're going to be behind, but you still will get the school emails. So if you have I would have a master plan for when I was going to be gone that everybody can see, and that we have a massive family meeting like a week before I leave, that says I need to make sure everybody understands what's happening and where have we left some gray area. And then that's what gets updated. So when you get a school email about a new thing, you can tell your mom, I've put it in green on the master calendar so you can see it was added. I need you to go to Target and pick up 3 green envelopes, whatever the silly, obscure requests are. But you'll still have Amazon on your phone. You'll still have Instacart. There'll still be things that like you can administer from where you are. So some things to think. The other thing that I would think about is there a way that your mom could be added while you're away to school or team emails?
So the nice thing is she also substitute teaches. So she gets all the school emails. So that's an easy check. But I hadn't thought about, particularly with Grace's basketball season starting, I could easily add her to the team Sports U. So she's getting those updates.
I think that could certainly help. The other thing I thought about when I'm in my first high school volleyball season this year. And so I'm learning the types of requests that come from a mom. And I'm like, I can tell in the team, there are some moms that have more time than money, and there are some moms that have more money than time. We need to let people bifurcate into the column that they would like to be in. So you may go to a friend and say, can I give you $400 to sign up on my behalf to take care of these 2 meals that I'm supposed to do this season because I'm going to be gone this excursion? You know what I mean? And can you just remove the stress for me? You have the time and the heart for it. Can you just take our volunteer and let the coach know this is what we're doing? Maybe a way to kind of park some of that too.
No, I think I definitely need to think about that, because at least the nice thing in my situation is that because I'm a senior mom, and I have another senior mom, we will like be in charge of those signups. So making like, I need to make that a priority mid-October when the team starts practicing to get that sign up out and push my obligations to when I will be back and not while I'm gone. and make sure I get those slots filled.
Totally. Do you have an assistant at work?
Yes.
Could she do some of that for you?
She could. Yeah.
You might think about that.
Yeah. And I think too, and having an assistant, honestly, is something that's new to me. I'm just about, oh goodness, we've been together. We're about 18 months. And so I've just always been wired to figure everything out myself. So learning to leverage her, and I feel like I've made really good strides in that area over the past, last week I went to a Chief X event in Chicago and I had some other meetings that morning. And I was thinking about, okay, I need to know when are my hard stops that I need to be in the car and I need to be driving, and asked her to do an itinerary for me. And it was so incredibly helpful. I'm like, why did I not do this before?
Yeah.
Because it was, I had it with me all day. I referred to it multiple times and it was so helpful.
Amazing. Love that. So do you guys do family meetings
We do. I wouldn't say we're super consistent about it, but it is usually it depends on the week. Usually we make it a priority. We try to have family dinner together every night, but with activities, sometimes that just doesn't play out.
No.
If anything, it's always usually my husband and I and Lucy, because Grace, a lot of times will have and I have an obligation, but we make it a priority. Sunday night, everybody needs to be home. And we have tried to do dinner. And so that's when we usually kind of go over the week and talk about anything that we don't know, especially from the kids' perspective. Is there anything that's not on my radar, that's not on the calendar that is going to hit this week, and try to get organized?
So one of the things you might think about is if there's a way to get more disciplined about that going into this experience, just so that, because when you're home and around, there's more that can be left to just it being intuitive. And so just starting to lock in and being thoughtful about I need you to take responsibility for this because I'm not going to be here to catch you. And I want you to be able to fail while I'm home. Sure. So that it doesn't feel like it's all changing when you leave. And the other thing I might think about, Kelly, is how do those family dinners or your weekly check-in, is there a way in your schedule that while you're in Hawaii, you can have a couple of those touch points with your family? So can you block once a week when dinner time is on Eastern time, and you literally sit on Zoom and you're eating dinner together.
That's
and
a really
once
good idea.
week we eat dinner together, whatever time that is for you or whatever meal it is. Or on Sunday evenings, we're going to go through the schedule that's coming up. We're going to review what went well and what poorly. You're going to take an hour and a half and it's going to be scheduled, and you're going to protect that time, and you're going to let your team know that I need this time with my family and they need it from me, so that those connections are scheduled and the kids aren't wondering when is the next time I'm going to see mom. It's they know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is planning that schedule. Because one thing I noticed, I was in France for work over the summer, and it was hard for me. I didn't do that in advance. And it was hard because, I'd get a random FaceTime and I may be in a situation or in a moment where I can't step away. And then I felt guilty because I know she needs me. I know she wants to talk to me about something. And I would say, hey, give me 20 minutes and I'll call you right back. But having that preset ahead of time, I think would just help manage availability, expectations, and those types of things.
Yep. And for your girls too, an 8-hour time difference is hard to kind of conceptualize, and some of them kind of knowing, I can't do it in my brain quickly, when in the day you might have more sort of real-time texting availability versus it just being really different. So that's something to think about, is how do you schedule, be as intentional with those check-ins when you're away as when you're home, so that feels kind of grounding to them.
That's a good idea. And it's, I actually last week set up on my phone, in my world clock, what is the time in Honolulu? What is the time in Marjaro where the crew is going to be? And where's the time here? So I could easily too go in their phones and set up their world clocks so they can look at that at any time and know what time is it for mom.
Yes. Yes. That would be very empowering, especially to your 6th grader for sure. I think my other question is what's the best thing that could happen coming out of this?
Well, I guess from a family lens, I do think creating, like I said, self-sufficiency. And overall, my oldest Grace is pretty self-sufficient, but there's always room to improve. And I don't know, kind of as you're thinking about meals, I kind of like to see if I could put that on her one day a week. just because like she's going to be going to college next year. And I think that that's a regret I have with my son, is that I didn't push that more when he was home. Like we made sure that like he knew how to do his laundry and all that stuff. But I feel like cooking is an area I could have done a better job with him. And so I think this could be a good opportunity for her to own that responsibility. Like this night, it's yours, and assigning that, even if it's something frozen, but just the simple, like being able to, make sure the table is set, make sure, the temperature is right, all those types of things that you're paying attention to it could be really helpful for her. So I think there is a level of self-sufficiency. I'm going to use your phrase, like that's a values-driven perspective. I think when like an ego-driven perspective, I hope they see that like mom was a part of something that was historically significant. And that's really freaking cool. Like I do want to have their admiration from that. I don't want them to feel like this was overall a giant inconvenience. I always want them to be proud of me and the work that I do and see value in that.
What about for you?
I think kind of as we've talked through this, I think there's a lot of opportunities for me to be just a better partner to my husband and him to see that. And I think then he feels kind of more seen and heard, that I do recognize this is hard for him and that a lot's going to be on his plate. So I think there's because now when I just kind of talking through this, even when I've traveled before and the trips haven't been as long, there's a lot that I could have done from a support perspective to minimize his stress and just be like, I see you. I more recognize how tough this is. And an aspect of this too that I want to be very sensitive with him about, and is that I think the other two individuals going with me are just in different life stages. One has an infant, one is married, but they don't have children yet. So I think that their spouses are going to come for a while, which like that's fine, but like that would just be too hard for us to do with everything going on. So I think that's also going to be a little bit hard for him to stomach, is like everybody else has their families there and you don't, and I'm not a part of that, which will be hard for me too. Like I'm totally going to be the third wheel at some points in this journey, and that's okay. Because it needs to come for our family. So I think I can demonstrate better support to him as a form of care and love that I maybe haven't done in the past.
Would it be possible for your mom to stay with the kids for 5 days so he could come for a couple of days and see this experience with you?
I think maybe. I think there's some variables there with his mom, whether or not he would feel comfortable right now leaving. Some other things it just kind of depends where we're at with her care at that time, whether or not that's possible. Another thing we've talked about is if the plane is found, and I likely won't get back until the beginning of like the week of Thanksgiving, and my birthday is the 25th. And so we talked about, do we just kind of stay there and we do Thanksgiving there and kind of make it a vacation so that everybody can come since the girls will be out. So we've talked about that. But I do think once we have dates nailed down and I feel like I need to map out the schedule and see what's possible, but hopefully he could come for a few days. Yeah.
I think that could potentially be a very magical conclusion to this, to have them all come out and join you. There is something very intimate about having seen what you saw, about having experienced some of where you ate and where you slept. And so this is going to be if they find this, a top 5 mountaintop moment in your career, likely.
Oh,
if they
for sure.
Find this. And so for your family to feel like they got a chance to see it and participate even in 5% of it with you, I think could be potentially something really special and it's different if he's like, I don't feel comfortable leaving because of where my parents' health is at, is a different choice that he may choose than, hey, I feel like I could set this up if you want to come, and give him the option potentially. Again, not telling you what to do, but I think...
No, I think that's a really good way to approach it too. Then like he kind of has, here are some options I've identified that I think are possibilities.
Yeah.
And then give him the agency to be like, okay, I feel like this feels good to me. This feels like this would work.
One of my own mistakes is there was a holiday season where my husband runs this business. They live in Austin, Texas. The owners do. And the whole executive team, they were flown down with spouses and all this kind of stuff. And I just was like, yo, it's December. We have
that's like
between
hardest time of the year.
Yeah, 4,000 and 5,000 children, it feels like.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's no way. And I didn't even try. I was just like, there's no way. There's no way a weekend in December. And he was so hurt that
Yeah.
I did not even try. It felt like logistically just the simplest thing for me to stay back. They're not my people. It's not my company. You know what I mean? I was just like, I don't know. I'm not saying I didn't want to hang out with it, but I was just like very dismissive of the whole thing. And if I would have worked my face off and been able to show him, this is what I can do. It feels like a little crazy, but I could be there for one night and then this thing or whatever. I think it would have gone a long way. I would have just tried. And it was so hurtful to him. And I really underestimated how he just needed me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget that sometimes he just needs me to be there. And so just sharing my own mistake as encouragement to just like think about that piece of it too. So,
well, and I think, I mean, I bet too, it was hard for him. Like you're sitting in that environment and you're looking around and everybody else has their spouses. And
yeah.
I think I will experience that same feeling and looking around and everybody has their spouses. And I'm like, have fun at dinner, guys.
Yeah. Because you will start to get lonely too. Yeah.
Take a walk. I think I will experience those feelings.
Yeah. And in some ways, when you're in a beautiful new place, your senses are going to be at like a 12. Like this sunset, I want to share it with somebody. The sand is so soft. This like, and being able to connect your family into that experience with you will also make you feel less alone when you remember this and want to talk about it. And 'cause it's going to be a keystone moment for you, Kelly.
Yeah. And I kind of hadn't even thought about it from the perspective of like the aftermath and talking about it. I'm lucky. I've had some really cool experiences. I got to go represent Purdue Global as a part of the Paris Olympics. And so when you come home and you're so jazzed about this experience and what you saw and what you ate, you kind of get these eyeballs back at you like, well, that was great for you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. And you're wanting them to be excited and like think that was cool, but they haven't experienced it. So they don't care. And then it's just like, well, that was very anticlimactic.
Yeah. Well, then you don't feel free to even share your memories with them.
No, you don't talk about it. You're just like, oh, I'm home. I'm going to go unpack now.
Totally.
Yeah. I've definitely had those moments of just feeling like, oh, okay. Well, it's over. You all don't want to hear about it. So let's get back to life.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's like, it's so expanding for everybody's relationships and perspectives and worldviews and what's possible to be able to go kind of do it together. So anyway, something to think about. If the expedition doesn't go that long, it might be totally insane to do this. But like, even if you get back on November 16th, it's like, dude, we're going to do Thanksgiving week in Hawaii, no matter what. We're either all flying back together and I'm showing you where I had puka dogs and where the best, whatever is. And we're going to do it together. And it's a reward. It's like a celebration that our family got through this together. I want to go show you what I did and what we explored and the food I ate so that you can experience this with me. And it's like, I have learned there are consequences that my kids, my family has to absorb as a result of me working. Some of those are hard and some of those are incredible.
And I would want this one to feel incredible because it is incredible.
And they're both things.
Yeah.
You're going to experience incredible things and hard things. So thinking about how do you give them an incredible as part of this experience? It could be going back to Hawaii, which I think is very poetic and amazing. I love that version of the story. But you're like, I'm asking you guys to absorb the difficult consequence of me being away. How do we think about you and your husband or just you about like, how do I also create a moment where it's like, dang, this also doesn't happen without mom working and needing to travel sometimes. And so drawing those out well for our kids so that they see like, because it can kind of be like, well, yeah, we just have more money, you get more stuff. But I try to be very intentional about like, this is an opportunity we have because I've worked outside of the home or because we have two incomes or because of the relationships that I've made so that they see there's some pretty rad things that happen in your life also.
I try to hit that point frequently too.
Good.
Of like why things are possible. So I think that's important. But I think what's interesting too is I'm somewhat having this epiphany of like, I talked about feeling selfish, that I'm making this, that, essentially like today, it's my call, like whether I go or don't go. You have people who contribute, but at some point you have to say, I'm doing this or I'm not doing this. And if I'm saying it, and when I've traveled and now I'm saying I'm doing this, I think part of the reason, like I've been struggling with feeling selfish is because I haven't invested enough time up front in putting those systems in place.
Yep.
And putting that extra support in place, scheduling those touch points. I think I've been too focused on, okay, here's the printout of the schedule. This is what I need to pack. Good luck, guys. It's going to be great. Really, when really it's going to be great for me, it's probably not going to be so great for you. And just talking through this, like reimagining the experience more holistically, not just so focused on, I'm just taking myself out of the equation here.
That's exactly right, Kelly. I'm so excited that's what you heard. And looking at what some of these systems can serve us when I get back home. I was telling one of my girlfriends, I was like, whenever I'm gone in the evening, I love to cook food. I love it when our house smells like food. I love to feed my kids good food. It's like one of my love languages. So I have created this irritating habit that my kids like to eat good food when they get home. And so when I'm not home, it's like, and they just, it's like, they're not going to put a Hot Pocket in the microwave, which is my making.
So in my house, it's opposite. My husband is the cook. And we often joke that we have made our kids very sloppy.
Yeah, like they like good
because
food.
I'll say, if nobody's home, make a sandwich or do this. And they're very much appalled at my suggestions because of that.
So I have done things like, if I'm going to be gone, my husband's assistant knows 3 restaurants my family likes food from and the girls' orders. And I will say, can you order this food for JR to pick up on his way home? So that when I'm gone, he doesn't have, and she puts on his calendar, pick up food at Stone Creek. You know what I mean? And so all I have to do is text her, I'm going to be gone Tuesday. She picks one of those 3 restaurants and she already knows the order. So I don't have a bunch of to-dos to do either to be gone. I just have to text her. And he doesn't have to chase everybody down for what everybody's eating. And you know what? One time every 2 months, they don't have to pick what they eat that night. It's something you told me you like from that menu.
Right.
And so then it just works. And so I'm not like, oh, geez, I'm going to be gone. I have to prep dinner the night before. It's like, ain't nobody got time for that. So it makes it just a system and it's set up. And I just text Candy, I'm going to be gone on Tuesday. Pick a dinner, do the thing. She's got the credit card. Just make it happen.
That is a very solid point as well. My husband has an assistant. She's lovely, but I don't interact with her hardly ever. And I know she would do anything ever to help our family. So I think she would enjoy it.
Candy texts me 40 times. He picked it up and got it. Did the girls like the food? I'm like, oh my
right. Because they're doing something that like brings your family joy. And then that brings that person joy in return. So that is a great suggestion.
So even having her, I don't know what their interactions are. If your husband and his assistant have like a meeting every single morning when he gets into the office, to let her know, I'm going to be gone on these dates. Can you include these 3 questions when you guys are doing your download? What can I do for you for the home? Are you clear on what's dinner tonight? And is there anything that the girls need? Oh my word. Assistants they are the ones who have time to be interrupted. It's like their job to do the emergency stuff.
Right.
So that could be a really helpful thing for him too, where he's like, I didn't have time to do this last night. Can you get this thing ordered? Can you go get a gift card for the thing? I mean, that's
all the
stuff
random
that just murders you.
It is because it's not on the plan and it has a deadline. And so it definitely throws a wrench into things.
Or even if you hear something, you include her on the text string to say, hey, can you take care of this for my husband tomorrow? This needs to be at the high school by this time. Or the 3:50 drop-offs at the high school for food before the bus leaves. I'm just like, God bless America.
That's why my parents can never move.
Yeah.
Until my children graduate.
But his assistant for 3 weeks could help with things like that too.
Yeah.
It's an interim amount
and she
of
would
time.
love that. I mean, she would love to help us. I mean, she just has such a huge heart that she would delight in it.
Totally. So look, you just got another person in your squad while you're gone.
I did. I hadn't even thought about that.
So yes, that's very helpful. Okay, this was the other place I wanted to go. You are in your own head about like, these are all the things that I see are going to be changed when I like exit the family system. This puzzle piece is going to be missing, and these are all the connection points that I see. Would also really encourage you to sit your family down and say, I would like for you to take 2 days to think through here's the things I've already thought about, like that I'm going to be listening. What am I missing that you experience that I don't know that I do? What on this list is not important to you that we can stop or that you're comfortable taking on? And how can we stay connected? Because some of it is what you need from them to feel connected as a mom. This is still with HOCO season, right? I'm like, I want to come take your picture, freshman in high school, at your friend's house. She's like, there's going to be a lot of pictures. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get a unique angle. I want to go because I want to see it and I want to be part of it. It has nothing to do with me getting a special picture of you.
Right.
I just want to experience your freshman homecoming by coming to the house. So it is for me, not for you, honey. And she's like, oh, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. So also thinking through, what do you need from them? Like, hey, I want to know, from your senior in high school, when you get home, I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how your day was. Or just like, what's your explicit agreement about how you're going to feel like connected to them? Mm-hmm. Because you don't want them to feel like I'm bothering you or whatever the things are. And so just with each person, your husband and your 2 kids at home in particular, mm-hmm. how are you going to stay connected, and what's kind of your agreement on that so that everybody kind of knows what to expect from each other? So that would be, of the list of things, what am I missing, or what do I do for you that I don't see? What on this list you don't care about? We can just stop. It's not that deep. And how are we going to stay connected? I would try to get really explicit on those things so that you're not making a bunch of assumptions and running around like crazy solving for things that they just aren't as important to them as what you perceive, mm-hmm. or you miss something that's like, oh, geez, that was so easy. I just didn't know it.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be critical. And I have found too, like I experienced this summer, it's also frustrating when you don't have that communication plan, because there's times they're not available too. So I felt like we were missing each other a lot. Mm-hmm. And then you start to feel even more disconnected when you are missing each other. And that's not a pleasant feeling, of course.
No, for sure. You'll be behind them. So if you're like, with my junior in high school, I would be like, if you send me a summary before bed, when I wake up in the morning, I'll review it. And then after school, you can read it. And it's like kind of this almost, I remember when they were little, they would do these little journals where they would write something on my bed and then I would write something on their bed. It's kind of that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And my second one has no impulse control. She's super emotional. So she would just send me panic text messages. I know that's what it would be like. And I would be like, so I'm not the panic text message person. Here's who you send those to. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to live through it. And it's going to be a delay, and I can't be helpful because I'm on a totally different time zone. So just sort of going through those things.
My oldest needs a panic text message person.
Your 24-year-old?
Well, my older girl.
Oh, your older girl.
She needs a panic text message person. But I do think I need to think about my boys, because they are very self-sufficient, but there are certain things they do depend on me for. My oldest right now is recently kind of taken a supervisor role at his job. And so there's times where he's like, hey, can you help? How should I word this? Or here's an issue I'm dealing with an employee. How would you go about it? Whereas my second son, it's more about kind of navigating college, or he's going to be in the thick of internship season. So advising him on hey, can you review this letter, or those types of things. I feel like I'm more their in-house professional editor.
Sure.
But establishing that, sending that stuff to me over email will likely be easier than doing text messages during this time. Some things like that to put in place with them, because I still want them to feel cared for, and that I'm available, and that I'm supporting where they're at in their stage.
Totally. So the same thing I think applies. Mm-hmm. How maybe at least once a week do you have a scheduled check-in with them?
Yeah.
And just say, they'll hey, mom, can you, or they kind of know to catch you on your way to work or over lunch. Mm-hmm. They kind of know that they learn the times. So be hey, while I'm away, we'll go back to that version of our relationship when I'm home, but let's schedule it. And then, I'd prefer emails over text. And is it that you'll get to it that night? Is it that you'll need 2 days? Is it that you have Friday evenings? That's what you're going to do, is kind of catch up on so that they kind of know what's the response time, or have them let you know, can you tell me how important this is so that I can respond to it in a way that's helpful to you?
I think that particularly is tell me how important that is. To gauge response time would definitely help me prioritize what they need and what they need me to look at.
So I think, Kelly, it's going to be a piece of how do you protect yourself so that you don't get into the over-functioning version of yourself that will be unsustainable for 21 days. You can do that for 5 probably. But 21 is going to get pretty long. And how do you be peaceful so that about what's happening at home, so that you can be present for this absolutely once in a lifetime, like wild experience. Your girls, especially, but probably all your kids, I just know girls better, they will parrot your energy in response to this. And you started this whole conversation by saying we play varsity, teaching them that this is part of who you are. I play varsity in my work. I want to play varsity for you as a mom. We are going to play varsity as a team, our family in this season, and we are capable. I am confident in you guys. And I am going to work to be the best version of a mom 8 hours away. And these are some ideas that I have. And we're going to work together and we're going to practice some of these things because that's how you get on the varsity court. You practice, you communicate well. We're good teammates. We're clear about what we need from each other. We understand our roles. We have a whole team. We have a group of people who are going to help us through this. We have this is how we're going to do this. I want you to still feel like you can feel honest with me. I want you to still feel like all these kinds of things. And also, this is going to help us all grow. So I would use something like that. And you guys can do this. You can do this, but also protecting your own energy so that you can be present and not just like so over-functioning version of high achieving woman.
Which I could easily fall into.
Yes. Oh.
But I think too, kind of in what you were saying, it's also how you were approaching that conversation and demonstrating that to me did give confidence, excitement, where I need to keep that tone and framing in mind, particularly when I talk to my youngest, when I tell my parents and not coming at a place from like, oh, I feel like more reserved that probably communicates the guilt that I feel or the hesitation that I feel because they're going to mimic my feelings. So if I'm coming at it hesitating or feeling guilty or kind of hem-hawing around, that is not going to make them feel confident, good, any positive feelings whatsoever.
Totally. So let's talk about this word guilt real quickly. My definition for the word guilt, my definition for balance is that when your time and money are going towards behavior and activities that totally support your values, who you are becoming, and your priorities, what you seek to do in the world. So when all of your time and money is allocated towards those two things, who you are becoming and what you want to do in the world, that's a life in balance. We use the word guilt sometimes when we are doing things in that quadrant of life, but we don't think other people are going to agree with it, or it came in a new package than we were expecting. But real guilt is when we pursue our priorities at the expense of our values. That's like actual guilt.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense because what I'm calling guilt is more, maybe as I'm more concerned about how I am going to be perceived by making this choice.
So what your kids need, your family needs to hear from you, we'll talk about the outside world in a minute, is that my values as a mom have not changed. To love you unconditionally, to be there to support you in every part of life's journey, to feed, clothe, and like whatever the things are. And maybe lift some of those things that your kids have come to expect from you and to say, I'm still going to deliver those things. The way in which they're going to happen over the next 21 days are going to be a little bit different than when I'm able to sleep in the same address as you. But who I am as a mom for you is unchanging. And these are the things that we're going to put in place as a family so that to the extent possible, these values feel exactly the same. But the way I'm going to stay connected to you is going to be in this explicit new way and not coming up and tucking you in before bed. I prefer coming and tucking you into bed. I don't want to be a mom who's 8 hours away for the next 10 years. But for 21 days, our family is going to go through this incredible experience and experiment. Like it's totally different.
Yeah.
Like I am unchanging in who I am for you. The way that I do these things are going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be hard for all of you. And that doesn't mean that you can't all grow through this. And helping the kids, the sooner you can start the conversation, the less shock there will be. And the more you can put some of these things in place so it starts to be like, okay, your 17-year-old had already made dinner 3 times by herself before you were gone. It wasn't the first time that she was looking for the measuring cup and then she starts crying because it's like, if mom were here, she'd show me where they were. It's like practice the 3 meals you want her to make so that she's seen it before. Or maybe it's the exact same meal 3 times in a row. And so she gets more confident each time she does it. So just being really measured and intentional about those things will help them feel set up for success. And again, I love your like, we play varsity, like you practice plays with the coach with nobody watching so that when the lights go on, you're ready. And so it's like, this is our practice time, family. This is the get the kinks out time.
Yeah. It's so ironic that like I live and breathe that, during my work life, but I'm also a little disappointed in myself that hasn't like transferred over into my personal life, because I would totally be thinking about the practice, the big presentation, the run through, all that type of stuff. And that for whatever reason hasn't translated over.
We don't do it. I mean, that's the whole, like, that's where the life of Ant came from. I was like, I am scaling my business. I'm not scaling my life. I'm making like, why can I do all of these things in my professional life and all of the things that I'm tripping on in my personal life? I'm not doing anything. I'm not delegating. I'm not organized. There's not systems getting the most important things done. People aren't clear on their roles. We don't have a team meeting. I'm like, of course, everything is on me. Of course, I'm mad at everybody. Of course, I feel overwhelmed.
I'm mad at everybody.
Of course, I feel alone.
I get it.
If I ran my team like that at work and they were all accessories to my blazing agenda, they would quit. If my family could quit, they might, not anymore, but in that old version of me. Because I was like, you turn yourself into a martyr. You feel like everything's on you. It's like, well, nobody can help because they don't know what to do.
And I think that will be a big opportunity, particularly like for my husband, because I think that's probably the one where like getting in sync and setting expectations and talking about what are the minimums that need to happen while I'm gone will, I think, open up some better communication between us as well. Because when you live together, you think, well, you just know what to do. Like, you just know what happens. But it doesn't always work out that way.
No, it doesn't. The other thing I would ask him before you, in these next couple of planning weeks, is what can I protect for you that is important for you to feel grounded during this experience? Is there one night a week that he needs to be able to do a client dinner? Is it that he needs to be able to leave the house every morning at 8 a.m.? Is it that he needs to run in the morning? I don't know what his thing is, but what
he needs to get out the door at a certain time.
That's a big one for my husband too.
Yeah. So I think having that conversation and including the girls as a part of this conversation, like this is the time dad needs to be heading out the door. So if there is whatever it might be that you need from him, it needs to occur in plenty of time before that.
I don't know. Yeah. So that would be, 'cause my husband has very few things he asks for, but the things he asks for, when I manage to them, he feels very respected by that. And I understand.
Right.
Versus just like expecting him to be absorbed by the monster that is a house of four girls. And because he's very punctual. He hates to feel behind. He's very prepared, my husband. And I'm more like, I can go wing it a little and like kind of get there. And he's not a wing it kind of a person. So I would be like, I don't know, you can drive a little faster. And he just makes him mad, help your husband feel like a customer of this experience too. So anything you'd hope that we talked about, Kelly, that we haven't?
I don't think so. This has been extremely helpful. And like some of the things, like I said, some things just feel like so obvious. Like, why haven't I done this before? I think it would have really relieved some tensions, even going into the travel. I think there's things I can do now that like particularly show my husband like, hey, these are the steps that I'm taking and the things I'm getting in place to make this easier will automatically relieve some of those tensions of like, how in the world are we going to do this?
Yeah. And like, it's a work stream, just like at work.
Yeah.
So there's an example in my life. My oldest daughter is a junior in high school. And I'm like, she needs to go to college. I have no idea how to get a kid to college. I don't know. It's steps. But I don't know. And she and I are going to process very differently this whole thing. And so we have a meeting every other week to manage this work stream. I'm like, it's a work stream. This is a complex problem. Get a kid to college. She's got SAT stuff she needs to do. We need to schedule on-campus visits. We need to go through like asking ChatGPT if this is what your brain can do. What kind of jobs might you be good at? And so this forcing function of meeting every 2 weeks and managing the work stream is, again, I think something we're not good at in our family lives. And so you and your husband being like, this is a monster thing that's coming. How do we have a business meeting together every week or every 5, whatever your cadence needs to be, so that when this comes, we both feel prepared and there isn't this like 2-hour like dump session where,
which he would be very overwhelmed by.
Well, we all would.
Yeah.
You've been solving silently for the last month and he has exactly 120 minutes to get up to speed. Yeah.
that would not be a positive moment.
So like just meeting on it consistently so that you're moving through the process together and he feels like he's informing it would be another thing I might recommend. So
yeah, for sure. No, this was extremely helpful. It's exactly what I was hoping to get out of it.
good. I'm so glad. Well, I'm here. I'm an email away if we need anything. We don't need to do the next one on the microphone. You guys, thank you so much for listening in on this. Kelly, you're so brave. The first thing to creating change is to acknowledge where I'm at is not going to work. And in some ways, this, I think, could end up being such a blessing to your family because it's a forcing function to pay attention to what are we doing, because this is not going to sustain with me out of it. So I'm hopeful that this, what you guys put in, just blesses your family going forward. And this is all about what the life of and is. How do you solve for what you want without compromising your values and who you are? Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Oh my word. Amazing.
So
Love
now I'll
it
quit
so
avoiding
much.
talking about it.
That's right. You can practice in your car on to and from work. So, okay, everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody. It's the fastest way that we grow the show. Thanks for joining us. See you next week. Thanks for listening to The Life of And. This is your weekly reminder to keep making bold choices, saying clear yeses, and holding space for what matters most. As always, if you like this episode, I'd love for you to drop a review and share it with your friend. It's the fastest way that we can grow the show. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time.